Hello everyone. Today I'll talk about something that I personally believe is very important for a lot of you who are filling up the preference list right now, are in the process of deciding which law school is better, which law school to put at number 1 and 2 and 3. I mean, I'm assuming the top 2, 3, 4, etc. are definitely clear to you, but maybe a little after that, at least the basis on which you should be deciding your law schools, right? So let me first of all start by telling you about the kind of criterias that you should not be using, right? So first of all, for example, especially a lot of law aspirants, not, I don't see that happening with IIT aspirants or medical aspirants, but in particular, I see that happening with law aspirants, that I hear people saying, I don't want to go to this particular law school because of the city that it is in. So I don't know if it's because because you've developed a certain whatever it is on the basis that you know a little more English and therefore you think you're too cool or whatever. But please don't be foolish enough to make your judgments on the basis of your English speaking ability and therefore your cultural impacts that you're facing. Right. What I mean to say is, you will not hear an IIT aspirant who is stupid enough to say कि भाई मुझे IIT Kharagpur नहीं जाना है because Kharagpur is not a cool city, right? But you will hear a lot of law aspirants say that I don't want to study in Patna, or I don't want to study in Lucknow, or I don't want to study in Raipur because the city is not cool enough, or Ahmedabad mein alcohol is not available because it's a dry state, and Patna is it's also in a dry state. Now I think maybe alcohol is available in both places. I don't really know, but I'm sure you're getting my point, right? Nobody rejects IIT Kharagpur on the basis of the city. What I'm trying to tell you is, if you study in Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur, your classes don't happen at Ghadi Chowk in Raipur. If you study in Lucknow, your classes don't happen on the streets of Lohia Path, right? Your classes and your legal education is going to happen in the law school. So the intellectual faculties available, intellectual environment available, your batchmates, your colleagues, your seniors, juniors, etc. are more important than whether the city is cool enough or not, right? So please don't choose law schools, or more importantly, don't reject law schools on the basis of the city, right? Secondly, a lot of people will tell you, including law aspirants, that भाई मुझे सरकारी नौकरी करनी है, I want to give the UPSC exam, or I want to give the PCSJ exam, and therefore मुझे भाई नेशनल लॉ स्कूल ही जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. I might as well go to Allahabad University or Banaras Hindu University or AMU or Jamia or DU or somewhere, and then try to figure it out. Now, if you're studying law, without any doubt, believe me, the best place to study law is to go to one of the top national law schools. At least in my humble opinion, it's not even worth debating. However, you don't have to trust me. What you can do is you can go verify for yourself. So what you can do is check how many people have qualified the UPSC exam and are law graduates. And then check how many of those law graduates qualifying the UPSC are from Allahabad University or BHU and are from, say, NLS Bangalore or Nalsar Hyderabad or NUJS Kolkata or NLU Delhi and so on and so forth. And I'm telling you without even blinking my eyelid even once, that by default, the results of the national law schools will be fundamentally far, far ahead of the traditional universities. Now, historically, the facts might be a little different when national law schools did not exist, right? But since the advent of and the emergence and sort of dominance of the law schools that have happened over the past decade and a half, there's really no competition sort of left. I'm not trying to say Allahabad University or BHU are bad. I'm just as much as, how should I put it? I believe Hidayatullah National Law University, which is my own law school, is a good school, but it would be stupid on my part to say Harvard is not better, right? So maybe AU and BHU both are good, but I'm telling you, in my opinion at least, there's really no competition that NLS or Nalsar are definitely better. So it doesn't really matter whether you want to do a sarkari naukri or not. You want to study law to the best of your ability and explore the best opportunities available in the legal profession. And I'm telling you that the way to do that is to go to one of the national law schools, right? Now, the third thing is that a lot of people will tell you about infrastructure. And what I mean is that they'll tell you about the physical infrastructure. Now, again, I do believe that a certain quality of physical infrastructure is definitely important, that it is an essential requirement for a successful law school, right? But I mean, HNLU has very good infrastructure. National Law University Lucknow has excellent infrastructure. But I personally believe that the intellectual infrastructure of NLS Bangalore, even if their physical infrastructure is a little lesser or a little inferior, the intellectual infrastructure of NLS Bangalore is definitely superior to that of both of these law schools, right? So what I would suggest is, don't really look at the physical infrastructure, just try to look at the intellectual infrastructure, right? So what do I mean by intellectual infrastructure? And as a law aspirant, how can you figure out what criteria can you use to decide which law school has a better, for the lack of a better phrase, better intellectual infrastructure? Now, what I would recommend, at least how I evaluate law schools and whether they're good or bad or which one's better, is I usually look at three criterias. Criteria number one is I look at whether the number of students qualifying and going and studying for their masters in the topmost law schools abroad is more in one law school or than the other. Now, going and studying for their masters or a PhD or whatever in a foreign law school is very different from going and doing their masters in a top law school in a foreign country, right? Especially in a country like ours, I'm sure you must be having those relatives or some distant neighbor who's probably telling you and has told your parents कि भाई उनका लड़का या बेटी गई थी अमेरिका पढ़ने के लिए, right? नहीं, बहुत बढ़िया बात है, that's all fine and very nice, but what I'm trying to tell you is, if somebody tells you उनका लड़का अमेरिका गया था पढ़ने के लिए, I promise you कि वो हार्वर्ड नहीं गया था पढ़ने के लिए, because nobody goes to Harvard and says अमेरिका गया था. Similarly, somebody tells you इंग्लैंड गया था, by default you can assume कि भाई ऑक्सफोर्ड, कैम्ब्रिज या लंदन स्कूल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स नहीं गया था. What I mean in law at least. Right? At least that's the normal phenomena. There might be exceptions, but you're getting my point. That there's a difference between simply studying in England or the United States and studying in one of the top law schools in England or United States. So what you can do is, what you should do, in my opinion, is that you should figure out how many students from NLS are going, how many students from Nalsar are going to do their masters in, say, the top 10 law schools abroad. Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Columbia, NYU, Georgetown, Oxford, Cambridge, London School of Economics, and so on. Criteria number two, right? Criteria number two is how many people are qualifying the topmost government exams. Now, again, topmost government exams sometimes can be a little confusing. So, for example, if you look at the number of people qualifying the PCSJ exam, in particular, that's the lower judiciary examination, from a law school, say like NLS Bangalore or Hyderabad, then the number will be actually very low, because most people from Bangalore or Hyderabad don't give the PCSJ exam. Their aspirations are higher or whatever, there's just not as many people appearing for the exam. But when you come to, say, the 7th or 10th or onwards in terms of law schools, say Raipur and Lucknow and Patna, then you'll see that there are massive results from, that's why Allahabad University and BHU are just absolutely unable to compete anymore, even for the lower judiciary exam. The UP judiciary is heavily dominated by RML and NLU. Chhattisgarh judiciary exam, the HNLU has pretty much made it their own birthright to sort of qualify, that paper. Bihar Judicial Services last year, about 40 plus students out of about 60-70 were from CNLU Patna alone, right? So there might be a little bit of variance when you're, evaluating whether top government services means what. But what I mean is, if you look at the number of UPSC qualifying students, then NLS Bangalore will definitely have more number of students, say, compared to a college like HNLU or CNLU or RML-NLU. Similarly, you look at the third criteria I would suggest is how many people are getting the topmost law firm jobs. So again, if you go to a decent law school, a decent national law school, and you're looking for a job, you're guaranteed to get a job. That's not a problem. You're going to get about 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. Slightly above average means in terms of your student quality, if you're slightly above average, you will definitely get about 60, 70,000. That's not a problem. But how many people are getting the topmost jobs? So when I say topmost corporate jobs, what I mean is, again, you can simply directly take a look at how many top law firms, say 5, 10 top law firms like Amarchand, which is now divided into two firms, Cyril Amarchand and Shardul Amarchand, AZB Partners, Luthra, Trilegal, and how many people are qualifying or are getting jobs in the top tier law firms. Now, if you apply these three criterias, right? Criteria number one, how many people studying in law schools abroad, top law schools abroad, how many people getting the top government jobs, and how many people getting the top law firm and corporate jobs. In my evaluation, at least, it's definitely going to be NLS Bangalore at rank one. And then there's Nalsar, which is a close second, or up to you. But personally, I would recommend NLS Bangalore because the alumni base is much stronger. It's a much older law school. And having a stronger alumni base has its own advantages. There's a reason why Harvard Business School continues to be the topmost business school. It's not necessarily limited to their academic dominance, but more importantly, the amount of networking opportunities, the amount of doors that are more easily opened if you are an alumni of Harvard Business School. Similarly, those advantages translate even into the law school fraternity. If I had to tomorrow do a recruitment for my company, for example, and I have two exactly same looking CVs, two same looking resumes, and one is from my law school and one is from some other law school, well, if they're pretty much exactly the same, then, fair or unfair, I will have a certain degree of bias towards my own law school, right? So having having a stronger alumni base, therefore going to an older college has its own advantages, right? So NLS, Nalsar, NUJs, then we have obviously Bhopal, then Jodhpur, Gandhinagar, followed by Raipur, then Lucknow and Patna. It's really up to you. Again, I think there's some misconceptions about Raipur or Lucknow and which one's better. So again, you can just figure it out. For example, from my law schools, about half a dozen people have qualified Harvard. A lot of people have qualified the bureaucracy. We have partners from the topmost in the topmost law firms now, including at Amarchand. Compared to, say, if you look at how many people have qualified and gotten to Harvard from, say, RML or Patna. From Bangalore, every batch, at least one or two people go to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, everywhere, right? But how many people have gone to Harvard from, say, RML? I think in the history, till date, at least, I think it's one student who's gone. Then I think from Patna till now, nobody is gone. So again, I'm not trying to specifically talk about A college or B college. Do your own evaluations, right? I'll put up a separate preference list in one of my subsequent posts later on. But today I primarily wanted to talk about what criterias you should not be using when you're choosing a law school, and also what criterias you should be using, at least in my opinion, what criterias you should be using, to choose your law school, right? So government jobs, admissions, and top law firm jobs, and to some extent there has to be a certain factor of the older the college, the more the alumni. So there's a certain degree of small advantage to that. Like if I'm interning at a law firm, right, and I'm in the first batch of my college, I go to that law firm office and I'm trying to figure out how to introduce myself. Like when I was in NLU, like not too many seniors in my law school who were already at law firms. When I was in my third year, that's when the first graduating batch happened, right? So if I'm interning at a firm, I had to go and introduce myself, speak to them, etc., etc. Now my alumni has been a lot of help to me, right? But on day one of internship, it was sometimes a little more inconvenient. Somebody from NLS Bangalore, on the other hand, would have an easier situation there because one of his seniors would already be a senior associate there, and the partner would also be from the same law school. Even the senior equity partner would also be from the same law school. So it's just easier access, easier conversation, and so on. So that's what I wanted to tell all of you in terms of how to fill up your preference list. So please do let me know in your comments if you thought this was helpful. If you have any specific query, please do reach out to me in the comment section. I'll be happy to reply, or at least I'll get somebody from my team to definitely reply back to you in terms of any specific law school comparison. If you thought this was helpful, otherwise also, please do make sure that you hit the like button. And at the end of the day, please make sure that you've already subscribed to the channel, because the content will keep on coming. And if you think some of your other friends also can take some benefit out of it, then please be kind enough to share the content also, so that we can also grow our own network and make our family a little larger, right? Thank you so much for a very patient hearing. I hope this was of some help to you, and have a very good day ahead of you.